Here's what's coming up on today's show.
Celebrate the spirit of the 4th of July with us today. We're going to talk all about the concept of financial independence in retirement.
It's easy to get lost on the way to retirement. Things like taxes, improper planning, and excessive market risk can all lead you astray from your goal of a successful and happy retirement. That's where Liz Whittaberry comes in. She's a holistic financial advisor and the founder of Best Path Advisors, and she can help guide you to a better financial path. This is Retire on Your Best Path with Liz Whittaberry.
Welcome into this week's edition of the podcast, or I guess this month's edition. We are into July here on Retire on Your Best Path with Liz and myself. And we're going to kind of get rebellious. Some retirement rebels, if you will, is the conversation this week. And as Liz mentioned, we're going to talk about kind of financial independence in honor of 4th of July. So I think we're dropping this just a couple days after 4th of July. So hope everybody enjoyed. And Liz, hopefully you'll have a good 4th of July. We're taping it beforehand, but talking about it after. It's a little weird sometimes. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. And we're taping it right before 4th of July, and then it'll be aired right after 4th of July. So it should be a good weekend here.
Yeah. We were just chatting about it, you and I, offline before we started taping, and I think we're supposed to get rained out. So I don't know. Of course, it does that every year in the South, right? It's like it's the I guess it's the humidity and the heat, right? So it's like every day is a chance of thunderstorms or thunder showers, and sometimes they show, sometimes they don't. So we'll see. It remains to be seen. But usually most people around here are not deterred by possible rain because they'll still be firing off fireworks and whatnot. So hopefully everybody has a good 4th of July.
Hopefully so.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some ways that we can kind of find our financial independence. Obviously, that's the crux of what we did as a nation. So let's look at a couple of things here. We'll actually start with the government. So I got a couple categories I want to go through, and let's just give us some bullet points or some highlights or some things that it kind of registers with you when I say independence from government for like a retired person, a retiree, or a pre-retiree.
This is a good one. First off, you want to be independent, not reliant upon Social Security for retirement income. And certainly there are people that is the only retirement income they have. We hear about that. But,
right.
To the extent that you can save and have your own income and have that Social Security benefit as a supplement to that is better.
Right.
We know
that's the key, right? It's like trying to have it as a supplement, which is what it's for. Some people, unfortunately, do get into those dire straits, as you mentioned, but my mom's in that particular situation. But it's not what we want to try to do. So trying to find a way to be independent and not just to have to rely on that is the goal.
Absolutely. And if you do need to rely on it, rely on about 70% of it, because we know that it's underwater. And unless they increase taxes, they're going to cut benefits. It's going to be one or the other. And we don't quite yet know which way that's going to go. I expect them to increase taxes, but if they did cut benefits, you wouldn't want that to be some of your core income.
Yeah, and they'll wait till the last minute. If it's 2033 or whatever, and it's like if it's September of 2033, for example, it seems like they'll wait till August before they make a decision. So who knows?
A couple other things on this topic are your Medicare and your nursing home care if you need it, or long-term care. Medicare does not cover everything. It has limits in coverage. And so you need to buy supplemental insurance. We call that a Medigap policy to cover the gaps in that coverage. And then Medicare and your supplement does not cover for long-term care. That's a different kind of care. And the government will pay under Medicaid. If you're destitute, they'll pay for nursing home care, and you don't want to be destitute. You don't want to need to use Medicaid. In fact, most people want to stay at home as long as possible, hopefully till the day they die. And in order to do that, you've got to have a plan for how you're going to cover those healthcare costs and those long-term care costs if you have them, so that you don't need to rely on the government for that.
Yeah, because a lot of times, if that's the case, those are the state-selected facilities. Sometimes there's good ones, sometimes there's not good ones, right? So you want to make sure that you're not reliant on that. And again, that's kind of the idea behind the independence from the government in regards to retirement strategies and retirement planning. Okay, so there's a couple of good points there. Independence from family. Liz, let's go to this one. So my mom's 82, and she lived with us for a couple of years, but she was working really hard to try to get herself, I mentioned a minute ago, she was Social Security only. She had lost a lot of everything in 2008 and 9, actually, with the downturn then. And so it took her a little bit, but she got herself into a senior apartment complex. She loves it. She enjoys herself, and she likes having that independence. She's like, I love staying with you guys. I appreciate you letting me stay with you. And I help her out with rides and, from time to time here and there, because she's 82. So, but she likes the independence. It made her feel like her own person again. Right. And I think that's a great place to try to be. You don't want to have to be reliant on your family. You just want to be with them because you want to be with them.
Right. Absolutely. And, that I think, and I'm so sorry that your mom ended up losing in 2008 and 2009 to put her in that situation. Because I'm sure that created a lot of stress.
Oh, for sure.
At the time. And thankfully, she's now on the other side of that. But when people are looking at their retirement, they need to, at the beginning, have that spending plan and really think through, what do they need to spend? Where's that going to come from? How much do their assets need to earn to cover that spending plan? And be invested to protect that, in order to protect the income that they have from that. And I would say everybody, whether, I have clients that have 2 million, 4 million, 8 million, 16 million, they're all concerned about outliving their income, supporting their lifestyle, protecting their capital. Everybody has that concern. And starting with that spending plan, then, and aligning the assets up to support that, can provide that security over retirement. I find that a lot of the people that come in and talk to me, when they look at it, they find that they may be able to have a spend more now plan, that they're starting out more conservatively than they need to because they are afraid that they could outlive their money. And having that plan helps them to know, how much can I spend and be independent for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I mean, and it's certainly something you want to do, because she was the classic situation there, Liz, of way too much. I wasn't doing this kind of work then, so I didn't know either, right? So she was way too weighted, heavily weighted in the stock market, right? And so when it went down 50+% in that time period, that 07 to 09 kind of time period there, it just gouged her, right? And then she goes into retirement, and she retired. She had to retire a little bit early. I think 69, I believe, was a little bit more sooner than she wanted to. And so, after 10 years, whatever was left was kind of gone, right? So she's reliant on just Social Security now. So it's easy to do. Sometimes you don't realize, life can come at us quickly. So having a strategy, having a plan, and working with somebody the sooner that we can is certainly beneficial. And that kind of goes well with our next one, which is independence from creditors. And that would be having that strategy plan to help you also reduce that debt before you get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And when people ask me about their debt as they're entering retirement, my response is that there's good debt and bad debt.
Right.
Not all debt is necessarily bad and has to be avoided. That good debt is the credit card that you pay off in full every month, or something that is at 0% interest and you're actually earning more than that. But you could take cash and pay it off, but you're earning more on your cash. So that can make sense, because you're actually putting money in your pocket.
Yeah,
while
if you've
you're
got the
paying
right
that off.
Yeah, if you've got the right mental outlook on that, right? To your point, I like how you said if you're paying it off every month, because right now, obviously, interest rates on credit cards are crazy.
Right.
But if you have that, I guess, that ability to do that each month successfully, then that could be a smart way of looking at it versus just assuming all credit card debt is bad debt.
And then another good debt would be a mortgage with a very low interest rate.
Sure.
We've had people that were able to lock in a 2 or 3% interest rate, and you can earn 4 or 5% in a CD. So you're ahead. As long as the cash flow supports the debt and the rate that you're paying is a very low rate, 0 or very low, then the debt is okay. But you've got to know that the cash flow is going to support it and know that you could pay it off and be okay. Otherwise, that debt that's at higher rates or your retirement cash flow isn't going to support it. You need to pay that off before you retire.
Yeah, because there's a lot of financial professionals out there, Liz, who just they trumpet that very loudly. Zero debt going into retirement, otherwise you're going to be in bad shape. And some people take that, very, very seriously, very, very to heart. It may not always be the case, right? There's nothing wrong with maybe having a little something, but it's a matter of the income, the cash flow. There's a couple of different circumstances. If we can get debt free going into retirement, sure, it sounds like a great thing. But it might not always be the case, right? So don't beat yourself up too badly if you have a little bit of debt going into retirement, as long as it's managed correctly.
Yeah, as long as it's good debt and you could pay it off at any point in time, and you're just earning more on your money. That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, let's do another one. Independence from employment. What might we be looking at here?
I think this seems a little bit obvious in that we think people do want to retire from their career.
Right.
But sometimes people need to continue to work. Maybe they do have some debt to pay off, or they aren't quite where they need to be, so they need to continue to work, or they want to continue to work. And those are two different things. You want to be able to be independent such that you can retire at any point in time. Once you hit that retirement age, you can retire because your health may force you to retire. So you need to have the ability to retire if you need to retire. But if you want to work, it's perfectly fine. Today's Wall Street Journal, I was just looking at that this morning before we started talking. And the Census Bureau reported that there were roughly 650,000 people over the age of 80 that worked last year.
Wow. Over the age of 80. Wow.
Over the age of 80. And that's 18% more than a decade ago. So we're working longer. I have had a lot of clients that continued to work into their 80s because they wanted to.
Yeah, I was going to say, did it happen to say if they were doing that because they wanted to or because they had to? Was there any kind of differential split there in that article, or did it just mention that they were working?
I didn't dig into the rest of it, but I think that there's a combination of both. It would make sense that there's some of both, because I have had a number of clients that have continued to work because they wanted to work.
Sure.
Retired from the career and went back to consulting for the company that they had worked for or the industry that they had worked for. One client was an engineer, and when he retired, he then built a company that sold parts to, certain industries and made a very large business out of that that's continuing on beyond him.
Yeah.
And, I could give a lot of examples, but I think the common story is these people want to be active and productive, and they're working because they want to, because it gives them a sense of purpose and they enjoy what they do. The people that have to work and don't really want to, that's where, they don't have any joy in that. And that's what we want to avoid. Being able to retire if we want to, work if we want to.
Yeah, and that's
having that freedom of choice.
Yeah, exactly. And the freedom, that independence from employment being the option, right? Work optional, sometimes we hear people say. So it's like, okay, I'm working at 75 because I want to, not because I have to. So that's our, fourth one? So let's do one more here. And this one would seem kind of obvious, but clearly we need to talk about that one, and that's independence from the stock market. That doesn't mean I'm suggesting, Liz, or you're suggesting not to have any money in the stock market. It's still going to be a great way to outpace inflation and things of that nature, but we don't want to sit there and be so hyper-focused on it that it consumes everything we do.
I think this goes, in my mind, back to what I've talked about more than once, and that is to have a bucket plan. Mm-hmm. Have a portfolio that is designed to match the spending plan. So when you're approaching retirement, the very first thing to do is create that spending plan. What do I expect my spending to look like over retirement? You never can know exactly, of course, but you need to have an idea of what you plan to spend money on and what that's going to cost. And then you can create the buckets that will match that. And those short-term buckets need to be invested very conservatively so that you can have that cash flow coming in and not worry about what the market's doing. The long-term buckets can be invested in the market, and you can ignore any of the noise that is around that because you're not planning to use that money for 10 years.
Right.
You can also build in some other products, some structured products that can protect you from some losses. You can have some alternatives. I have a lot of clients that buy a ranch or buy some rental property. Some people that continue to run a business on a semi-retired basis. And those are alternative places to have their wealth invested. But if you know that your next 10 years of income is coming in and you can see where that's invested, the rest of it, you can let it ride through whatever is happening without having to check it day to day, without having to worry about those day-to-day fluctuations. And that really gives a lot of peace of mind.
Well, you hear people say stuff like, well, I was going to retire, but it's a down, the market's down this year, so I'm going to have to wait. And that's not what you want, right? So if you're talking about independence from the stock market, you want to be able to say, you want to be able to retire in any economy, basically. I mean, that's the ideal goal, right? Whether the market's down or whether we're, inflation's high or what, some of the things that were going on like right now, like last year. I heard a number of people that I talked to last year say, well, I'm not retiring this year because there's too many there's too many negatives going on, so I'm going to wait. But it wasn't because I think they were in a position where they felt comfortable waiting because it wasn't like they hated their job or something like that. But still, it struck me as the way they were phrasing it. Well, I can't retire this year because everything stinks, right? And it's like, that's not what we want.
Exactly. And I think that goes back to if you put a plan in place 5 years before that date that you think you would retire, and in that retirement red zone, and you begin to get everything lined up so that that first 10 years of income after retirement, where is that at and where is it coming from? Probably some of the people that you were talking to still have, everything is kind of in one pot. How does that flow into retirement? And I see people that come in and talk to me and they have that same reaction. And again, everything is in one pot. They don't have a plan together. They don't know how it's going to flow through retirement, and getting that plan put together and seeing, okay, if this is lined up here and this is lined up here and this is lined up here, then we're really okay. We're absolutely okay. We can retire today.
Yeah, and that's the goal, right? So to be financially independent in honor of Independence Day. That was kind of our topic this week on the podcast. A couple of categories, a couple of places we want to try to have that financial independence from. And, of course, if you need help with that, reach out to Liz because she can help you retire on your best path. And you can find her online at bestpathadvisors.com. That's bestpathadvisors.com. And, of course, you can subscribe to us on Apple, Google, Spotify, whatever platform you like using for podcasting. You can check it out there. And, of course, you can just reach out to Liz if you've got some questions or concerns and you need some help. She's always here to help. Liz, thanks for hanging out and talking with me. I hope that you do have a fantastic 4th of July coming up here since, like I said, we're taping this beforehand but releasing it after. So hopefully you and the family have a great day.
Well, I hope you do too, Mark. And I hope your mom enjoys it too.
Yeah, she'll be over here. So she'll be over here hanging out with us, and I think we're grilling. So, well, whether it's in the rain or not, remains to be seen. But if not, we'll be on the
She
the deck.
Sounds like a wonderful lady.
Yeah, she's a pistol, but she's fun. So you have yourself a great day, folks, and we'll see you next time here on the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us, and we'll catch you a little bit later on in July as we put out another issue of Retire on Your Best Path.
The preceding program is sponsored by Best Path Advisors, which is solely responsible for its content. Securities offered through J.W. Cole Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through J.W. Cole Advisors. Best Path Advisors, J.W. Cole Financial, and J.W. Cole Advisors are unaffiliated entities. The opinions expressed by Liz Whitberry should not be construed as specific tax, legal, or investment advice, nor as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Neither J.W. Cole Financial nor its representatives provide legal, tax, or accounting advice. Persons who provide such advice do so in a capacity other than as a registered representative of J.W. Cole. Investing is subject to risks, including the loss of principal. Due to volatility within the markets mentioned, opinions are subject to change without notice. Information is based on sources believed to be reliable, however, their accuracy or completeness cannot be guaranteed.